There are some secrets so dangerous that the only way to uncover them is to become invisible. And there are some love stories so unexpected, so completely unplanned, so entirely unwanted by the people caught inside equals them, that neither the heart nor the mind could have ever prepared for them. What you are about to hear today is one of those stories. A story of a woman who walked into a house as a servant and walked out as so much more. A story of a man whose coldness melted without him even knowing it was happening. And a story of justice that came dressed in an apron and a headscarf that hid itself behind a plate of noodles and a mop and a quiet smile, and waited patiently for exactly the right moment to reveal itself. Before we begin this powerful story, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel, D Folktale, for more emotional African stories that will touch your heart. Tap the subscribe button right now and turn on your notification bell so you never miss a single story. We post new stories every week, and this community has grown into something beautiful because of people like you who love stories that are real and raw and deeply human. Now settle in, make yourself comfortable, because today's story is one you will not forget. The year was not special on the calendar, but it was extraordinary in the lives of the people whose story we are about to tell. In the heart of Lekki, Lagos State, where the roads are wide and the houses sit behind tall iron gates, where generators hum through the night and the air carries the faint smell of expensive perfume mixed with ocean breeze, where the children of wealthy parents speed past street sellers in their fathers' cars without making eye contact, two brothers lived in a house that was bigger than their hearts. The house was a 5-bedroom mansion on Chevron Drive. It had marble floors that gleamed like polished mirrors, a kitchen that could have fed a small village, and a sitting room with sofas that cost more than what most Nigerians earned in 3 years combined. There was a swimming pool at the back that no one used regularly, a garden that a gardener tended twice a week, and a security booth at the gate where a guard sat watching the world go by. The compound wall was painted a clean cream color that the rains had already begun to streak, and bougainvillea grew up one corner of it, purple and wild and beautiful. The only thing in the whole property that had not been carefully planned by someone. By every measure of Lagos' success, this house announced that the people who lived inside it had arrived. They had made it. They were someone. But what good is a mansion when the people inside it are miserable? The older brother's name was Daniel. He was 34 years old, tall, broad-shouldered, with a jaw that looked like it had been carved by someone who wanted everyone to know this was a serious man. Daniel had the kind of face that made strangers step aside when he walked into a room. His eyes were dark and calculating, always moving, always assessing, always measuring the gap between what people said and what they meant. His mouth rarely smiled. When he spoke, people listened, not because he was kind or warm or charismatic in the way that draws people naturally, but because something in his voice, something cold and certain, made you feel that disagreeing with him would cost you something. You might not know what, but something. Daniel drove a Mercedes that he kept obsessively clean. He wore suits even on days when there was no meeting. He kept his phone in his left breast pocket and checked it constantly with the focused anxiety of a man managing many things that could not be allowed to go wrong. He had a way of standing in a room like he owned not just the room, but everyone in it. Daniel was the kind of man who had everything and enjoyed nothing. His younger brother's name was Samuel. Samuel was 28 years old, lighter in complexion, with a warmer face and eyes that actually looked at you when you were talking, the kind of eyes that told you they were listening and not just waiting. Samuel laughed easily. He helped strangers on the road. He remembered the names of people who worked in the market where he bought suya on Friday evenings. He was the kind of man who would stop his car to help a woman whose tire had gone flat, even if it meant arriving late to wherever he was going, and then feel bad for the rest of the day that he could not have done more. He wore jeans and plain shirts. He drove a Toyota Camry that had a small dent on the rear bumper that he kept meaning to fix. He made friends without trying. If you met the two brothers standing side by side, you would wonder how they came from the same mother, and you would wonder what happened inside that childhood to send them down such different roads. The brothers lived alone in that massive Lecky house. They had no cook, no cleaner, no permanent domestic staff. This was partly because Daniel did not like strangers in his home. He was deeply private about his personal life, deeply suspicious of people in general, and deeply convinced that anyone you allowed into your private space would eventually use what they found there against you. This was not paranoia born from nothing. It was, as we would come to understand, born from very specific experience. He had fired 3 housekeepers in the past 2 years alone. The first went because Daniel suspected her of moving his personal items, specifically a brown notebook that had actually been misplaced by Daniel himself and was discovered later under his own bed. The second went because she had talked to a neighbor across the fence, a completely ordinary conversation about nothing that Daniel interpreted as a breach of privacy. The third went because she had failed to wash and dry one of his glasses to a standard that apparently only Daniel could perceive. No one lasted in Daniel's house, but a house that size does not clean itself. By the time our story begins, the house had descended into a gentle kind of chaos that was mostly Samuel's fault and entirely Daniel's frustration. Dishes sat in the sink, with the quiet patience of objects waiting for someone to take responsibility. Dust had settled on the television cabinet and on the frames of the large photographs that hung in the hallway. Photographs of buildings and cityscapes that no one had chosen for personal meaning, but because they looked impressive in that size. The floor in the kitchen had not been properly mopped in 4 days. And the refrigerator, which should have been full of food, contained only 2 bottles of water, a container of leftover fried rice that had turned a suspicious color on one side, and a single egg that neither brother had the confidence to trust. It was a Thursday evening when things came to a head. Samuel had been watching a YouTube video on how to cook jollof rice. He stood in the kitchen in a white t-shirt already stained with tomato paste, his phone propped against a bowl on the counter, reading the instructions with the concentration of a man defusing a bomb, while the narrator on the video spoke fast and cheerfully about the importance of getting the right tomato-to-pepper ratio. He had been at it for nearly an hour. He had burned the first batch of blended tomatoes in the frying pan and spent 10 minutes trying to wash the black off the bottom of the pan. He had added too much water to the second pot, and the rice was swimming. He had seasoned the whole thing so heavily that when he finally tasted it, his eyes watered, and he had to drink half a bottle of water. He was standing over the pot with a spoon in his hand, and the expression of a man who has made several decisions he deeply regrets, when Daniel walked into the kitchen. Daniel was wearing a pressed shirt, which was remarkable given that it was 7 in the evening, and he had been home since 6. He stopped in the kitchen doorway, looked at the mess on the counter, the discarded vegetable peelings, the bowls stacked unevenly, the tomato paste that had somehow gotten on the cabinet door above the stove, looked at the pot, looked at his brother, and said, "What exactly are you doing?" "I am cooking," Samuel said with dignity. "You are destroying food," Daniel replied. "I can smell it from the staircase." "Just taste it," Samuel said. "I followed the instructions exactly." Daniel walked to the stove. He picked up the spoon. He scooped a small portion from the pot and put it in his mouth with the caution of a man who suspects he is being asked to do something unreasonable. He chewed once. He set the spoon down very carefully on the counter. He walked to the sink and, without drama, without commentary, spat it out.
That's worse, right?
"Samuel," he said, turning around, "that is not food. That is a punishment. What did you do to it?"
You don't.
"I followed the video," Samuel said defensively.
Much worse.
"Which video? From where? Who told you that was how jollof rice is made?" "A cooking channel," Samuel said. "She has 4 million subscribers." "Her 4 million subscribers are not eating this," Daniel said flatly. "I am." Samuel looked at the pot for a long moment. He looked at his phone. He looked at the pot again. "Okay," he said quietly. "It is terrible." They ordered food from a restaurant that night, a place in Ajah that did good pepper soup and rice, sitting in silence on their expensive sofas, eating from takeaway containers, surrounded by marble and luxury, and the quiet understanding between two people who know something needs to change, but have not yet decided who should be the one to start the conversation. "We need a housemaid," Samuel said finally, while Daniel was opening a small container of extra pepper sauce. Daniel shook his head. "We have tried that. They steal, they gossip, they break things, they talk to the neighbors, they go through your personal belongings." "Not all of them," Samuel said reasonably. "Some people are just honest workers who want to do their job and be paid fairly." "Find me that person then," Daniel said, in the tone he always used when he had already decided he would criticize whatever Samuel chose to do. "But I am not changing my rules. She works. She does her job. She does not touch my personal things. She does not go into my office. She does not discuss this household with anyone outside these walls. And she does not bring any drama into my life. Is that understood?" "Very understood," Samuel said. He began making calls the next morning.
Yes, Ma. Good
It was
morning.
through a neighbor named Mrs. Okonkwo,
Someone you trust.
a stout and cheerful
That's what we
woman who
need.
lived a few streets away in
Thank
Maryland,
you, Ma.
and who seemed to know every single person in
Yes, Ma.
Lagos,
Good morning.
regardless of what part of the city they lived in,
Someone you trust.
that the name first came
That's
up.
what we need.
Mrs.
Thank
Okonkwo
you, Ma.
said she knew a girl, a simple and
Yes,
honest
Ma.
girl,
Good morning.
who had recently come to Lagos from Ogun
Someone
State
you trust.
looking for domestic
That's
work.
what we need.
She was humble,
Thank you, Ma.
hard-working. She could cook, and she did not have a complicated personality. "Is she educated?" Samuel asked. Mrs. Okonkwo smiled a small smile that Samuel could hear through the phone. "Not much formal schooling," she said, "but she is sharp, and she knows how to manage a home properly." Samuel thanked her, ended the call, and walked into Daniel's study to report. Daniel listened with his arms folded, nodded once and said, "Bring her." The girl arrived on a Friday morning. Her name, she told them, was Grace. She was 26 years old, though something in the steadiness of her eyes made her seem older. She wore a simple blue dress that had been washed so many times, the color had faded in gentle, uneven waves. Her shoes were flat and practical, the kind of shoes that belonged to someone who walked a lot and did not have time to care about how her footwear looked. Her hair was plaited in 2 clean, straight lines and tied at the back of her neck with a small elastic band. She carried a small travel bag that looked like it had survived more journeys than its owner. When she stood at the gate waiting for someone to open it, she stood with her hands folded in front of her and her eyes forward, not looking left or right, not betraying impatience or nerves. Samuel opened the gate himself because the guard had gone to buy food from a suya seller down the road.
Come in.
When Samuel saw her standing there, small and composed, with the early morning Lagos sun casting warm light on the side of her face, and the faint smell of harmattan dust still in the air, he felt something he could not immediately name. It was not romantic. Not yet. It was more like recognition, like seeing something real in a city that had too many performances, like meeting someone who was not pretending. "You are Grace?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she said simply. "Good morning." "Come in," he said. "My brother is inside." Daniel was seated in the sitting room when they came in. He looked up at the girl and said nothing for a moment.
Yes, sir.
He was the kind of man who used silence as a tool,
Nothing more.
who let quiet stretch out just
I
long enough to
understand
make
what is
people
required.
uncomfortable so he could see how they responded under the pressure of it.
Yes, sir.
Some people filled the silence with nervous talking. Some looked at their
I
feet.
understand what is
Some
required.
laughed without meaning to. Grace did not fidget. She did not look around the room with wide, impressed eyes, the way some people did when they entered a house like that for the first time. She did not shift her weight. She stood quietly and waited, with the patience of someone who had been waiting for things her whole life and had made peace with it. "Where are you from?" Daniel asked. "Ogun State, sir," she said. "Which part?" "Abeokuta," she said. "I grew up in Abeokuta. I came to Lagos about 2 years ago." "What experience do you have doing this kind of work?" "I worked for a family in Festac for 2 years before now," she said. "I cooked, I cleaned, I did laundry. I took care of 2 small children while their parents were at work. They relocated to Canada last year." "Did they have any complaints about you?" "You can contact them," she said, and she gave him a phone number from memory. Daniel looked at her. He had not expected that level of directness. "I will," he said.
I already have your number.
"What can you cook?" Samuel asked, leaning forward slightly. "I can cook plenty things," Grace said. "Nigerian food, continental. I can follow any recipe you give me. But if you want to know what I can make right now with what is in your kitchen, show me the kitchen, and I will tell you." There was a small, brief silence. "Go ahead," Daniel said, gesturing down the hallway. Grace walked into the kitchen. She did not ask for a tour. She opened the refrigerator, looked at the contents without visible reaction to the sad state of them.
Is it bad?
She checked the cabinets. She found noodles,
Empty.
eggs that were actually still fine, tomatoes, a few Scotch bonnets, and a small container of stock cubes. She pulled out a frying pan.
Like it matters.
22 minutes later, she came back to the sitting room with 2 plates. The noodles
That
were
looks
stir-fried in
illegal.
a way that had given them a slight char on the outside, but kept them tender inside. The eggs had been scrambled and folded in. The tomatoes and
illegal.
peppers had been cooked down just enough to be sweet, instead of raw. The seasoning was exactly right. Present, but not overwhelming. Warm, but not aggressive. Samuel tasted his and sat back in his chair. "This is very good," he said. "How did you do this so fast?" "Simple food does not need long time," Grace said. "It only needs attention." Daniel ate in silence. He ate half the plate. He ate a
Yes,
little
sir.
more. He set his fork down. "You start Monday," he said. "Samuel will explain the salary and the rules of this house. If anything goes missing after you arrive, or if I hear that you have been discussing this household with people outside these walls, you will leave the same day. Are we understood?" "Understood, sir," she said. She started Monday. What happened in the weeks that followed was slow and quiet, the way real things often are. Real change does not announce itself. It moves in like the tide, gently, consistently, until one day you look down and realize you are standing in water up to your knees, and you have no idea exactly when it happened. Grace moved into the small room at the back of the compound. It had been used for storage, and it smelled of old cardboard and dust. She cleaned it out herself, not asking for help
One step
or
at a
acknowledging the
time.
state it was in. She swept it, mopped it, arranged the few things she had brought with her, folded her 2 other dresses,
One
placed her
step
small
at a
Bible
time.
on the wooden shelf, set her phone charger neatly on the floor near the socket, and made the space her own. She was always up before the brothers in the morning, long before the sun had
Some people
fully
were
committed to
funny.
appearing,
Some were
before the
purpose.
Lagos traffic had built itself into its usual impossible geometry, before the birds in the compound garden had finished their
Some
morning
people were
conversation.
funny.
Grace
Some
was
were
in the
for
kitchen.
purpose.
By the time Daniel came downstairs in his pressed clothes and expensive cologne, breakfast was already on the table.
Good morning, sir.
Not a grand breakfast, just something hot and right. akara and ogi when the ingredients were there, fried plantain and eggs, bread and tea. Always something that told you someone had thought about what you needed this morning. Daniel acknowledged none of this. He sat, he ate, he left, he behaved, at breakfast, and throughout the day, as though the meal had assembled itself by natural law, and there was no human behind it who deserved notice. But Samuel noticed. Samuel noticed everything. He began talking to Grace in the evenings while she cooked dinner. It started as the kind of small conversations that happen naturally between people sharing a house. He would wander into the kitchen, ostensibly looking for something to drink, and end up leaning against the counter, asking what was in the pot. She would tell him. He would ask how you made that. She would explain. And somehow the explanation would lead to a story, and the story would lead to another question. And suddenly, 20 minutes had passed. He learned that she had lost both her parents when she was 19. Her mother first to illness, then her father in an accident not long after. She had an older sister in Port Harcourt, married with children of her own, but they had drifted apart the way siblings sometimes do when life takes them to different cities and different struggles. Grace had been largely on her own since 19 years old. "You have been through a lot," Samuel said one evening. He was sitting on the small stool in the corner of the kitchen that she had cleaned and placed there for no reason except that it looked abandoned near the back door. "Many people have been through worse," she said, without looking up from the pot she was stirring. "That is not an answer," he said. She looked up then. She considered him for a moment in a way that made him feel examined, not unkindly, but seriously. "It has not been easy," she said. "There were times when I genuinely did not know how I would manage. But you find your way. You keep moving. Difficulty does not kill you unless you decide to let it." Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I lost my parents too. My father when I was 14. My mother when I was 17. Grace stopped stirring. She looked at him. "Daniel raised you?" she asked. "In a manner of speaking," he said. "Daniel provided. He has always provided. Money, shelter, food. He made sure I finished school. But raising is a different thing from providing. Raising means someone sits with you. Someone asks you how you feel. Someone is interested." He paused. "Daniel is not interested in how people feel. He is interested in outcomes." Grace turned back to the pot. She stirred slowly. "Perhaps that is because someone failed to ask him how he felt when it mattered," she said quietly. Samuel looked at her. "That is more generous than he deserves." "Perhaps," she said, "but it is probably true." He went back to the sitting room and sat in the quiet and thought about what she had said. He thought about Daniel at 17, taking on a 14-year-old brother, managing money they had inherited, navigating a world that gives young men very few chances to stop and feel their grief properly. He had never thought about it quite that way before. The next evening, he brought Grace a bottle of Ribena and left it on the kitchen counter with a small note. The note said, "For the cook, thank you for the food and the conversation." He felt slightly embarrassed writing it, and then decided he did not care. Grace found the note and the drink, and stood very still for a moment with her hand resting near the bottle. Something warm moved through her chest, and then she recognized it, and then she told herself firmly not to let it move any further. She put the Ribena in the small refrigerator in her room and drank it slowly that night. Daniel noticed. He noticed the warmth in Samuel's eyes when Grace came into a room. He noticed the way Samuel lingered near the kitchen in the evenings. He noticed the note because he noticed everything in his own house. He said nothing that first week. He watched. He cataloged. He formed conclusions. On a Sunday evening after Grace had gone to her room and the house was quiet, Daniel turned to Samuel and said in a voice that carried no heat, but carried considerable weight, "She is staff, Samuel. She is here to work. I need you to be clear in your own mind about that." Samuel turned to look at him. "I am clear," he said. "Good," Daniel said. "I am also clear," Samuel said, in the tone of a man who has been patient long enough, "that being staff does not make a person less of a person. She is not a piece of furniture. She is someone who lost her parents young and came to Lagos alone and has been working hard her whole life. The least she deserves is basic human decency." "No one said otherwise," Daniel said. "The way you behave in this house says otherwise," Samuel said quietly.
Staff.
Daniel looked at his brother for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and went back to what he had been doing, which was his way of ending conversations he did not want to continue. But that night, Daniel lay in his bed and could not fall asleep easily, and he was not entirely sure why. It was 3 weeks after Grace arrived that Sandra appeared. Sandra was Daniel's girlfriend. She had been in Abuja for a month on what she described as business, the nature of which was always pleasantly vague. She was 29 years old, with the kind of looks that required significant maintenance and the kind of personality that required significant tolerance. She wore her weave long and straight and glossy. She wore clothes whose brands she mentioned often. She entered every room the way people do when they expect the room to adjust itself to them. She pulled up in a black SUV on a Saturday afternoon, came through the front door with 2 large suitcases that she expected someone else to carry, and found Grace mopping the sitting room floor.
"You work here?"
She stopped. She looked at the
"Then
girl.
work properly."
She looked at the floor. She looked at the girl's feet. She looked
"You
at the
work
mop.
here?"
She
"Yes."
looked at the girl's face.
"Then work properly."
"Daniel," she called, without taking her eyes off Grace. Daniel came from upstairs and greeted Sandra with the kind of kiss that belongs to people who are together more from established habit than from any current fire. He had spoken to Grace earlier that morning about making up the guest room, so Sandra's arrival was not a surprise to
"Are
him.
you deaf?"
He introduced them briefly. Sandra looked at Grace the way a person looks at something that has been placed in their space without their permission.
"No, not like that."
"What is your
"Are
name?"
you deaf?"
she asked.
That's not necessary.
"Grace," said Grace. "Grace," Sandra repeated. "Make sure my room is clean and fresh. I like my bathroom stocked. And do not knock on the door when I am sleeping in. Just leave whatever I need outside." "Yes, Ma," Grace said, and went back to mopping. Sandra lasted exactly 4 days before she found her first reason for conflict. She had moved items in the kitchen, rearranging the cabinet contents according to her own system, without informing Grace. When Grace went to find the stock cubes in their usual place and found them gone, she searched for them quietly, found them in a different cabinet, and adjusted her routine. She
"No,
said
not like
nothing.
that. Are you deaf?"
This was perhaps what annoyed Sandra most of all. She began to find small things to criticize Grace over,
"No,
daily,
not like that.
consistently,
Are you deaf?"
always in front of someone. The food was too peppery. The bathroom tiles could be cleaner. The way Grace pressed the bedsheets left a fold in the wrong place. These were the kinds of criticisms that are impossible to defend against because they are not really about the thing being criticized. They are about territory. Samuel watched this with increasing unhappiness. He saw the way Sandra spoke to Grace, not just what she said, but how she said it. With that particular quality of contempt that some people carry toward those they see as beneath them, a contempt that was not loud or
"You work
violent,
here?"
but was continuous and corrosive, like
Then work
rust on
properly.
metal. Grace absorbed all of it without complaint. She did not argue. She did not
"You
cry.
work here?"
She adjusted,
"Yes."
corrected,
"Then work
improved,
properly."
and kept going. She thanked Sandra for the feedback when Sandra pointed out a problem.
"No, not like
She
that.
apologized
Are you
when
deaf?"
Sandra accused her of something, whether or not the accusation was fair. She continued cooking meals that were, if anything,
"No, not
more
like that.
attentive than
Are you
before.
deaf?"
because Grace was the kind of person who responded to hostility not with cruelty, but with competence, which, as it turned out, made Sandra more furious, rather than less. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. It was not a dramatic event. There was no argument, no escalation, no warning. Sandra was walking quickly through the hallway in her heeled sandals, her attention on her phone, not looking at the floor. Grace had just mopped that section of the hallway. There was a small A-frame warning sign at the end of the hall, but Sandra had walked past it without registering it. Her left heel hit the wet marble at the wrong angle. She did not fall. She caught the wall with one hand and steadied herself, but the stumble was real and the embarrassment was complete. She turned around. Grace was at the end of the hall with the mop, looking up at the sound of the stumble. "Are you stupid?" Sandra said. Her voice was cold and precise. "You mopped this floor without clearing the hallway first?" "I placed a warning sign, Ma," Grace said carefully, "at the end of the hall. I'm sorry you did not see it. Are you hurt? Are you trying to say this is my fault?" "No, Ma," Grace said immediately. "I'm not saying that. I am asking if you are okay." Sandra moved toward her. Her face was tight with an anger that had been looking for somewhere to land for several days now. She reached Grace and she slapped her. An open-palmed slap, sharp and hard, across Grace's left cheek. The sound of it hit the marble walls of the hallway and bounced back and went to every corner of that house. The silence that followed was extraordinary. It was not the silence of nothingness. It was the silence of something that has been changed and cannot be unchanged. Grace stood very still. Her hand did not go to her cheek. Her face did not crumple. She looked at Sandra with eyes that were completely calm, the specific, terrifying calmness of deep water in which many complicated things are moving far beneath the surface. Samuel had heard the sound from the living room. He was in the hallway in the time it takes a man who is already tense to move 20 meters. He came around the corner and he saw the scene with complete clarity. He saw Grace standing still. He saw the red mark already appearing on her cheek. He saw Sandra standing with her hand still slightly raised. "What happened here?" he said. "This girl almost made me fall, and she was standing there with an attitude," Sandra said. "I am asking what happened to her face," Samuel said. Sandra lifted her chin. She needed to understand something. Samuel looked at Grace. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned to Sandra. "You will not touch her again," he said. "Not in this house, not anywhere. She is a person. Whatever disagreement you have, you come to me or you come to Daniel. You do not put your hands on her." Sandra stared at him with open disbelief. "You are joking me right now? Over a housemaid?" "Over a person," Samuel said. He looked at Grace. "Are you okay?" "I am fine, sir," Grace said. Her voice was steady as stone. "Go and sit down," Samuel said gently. "Leave the mop. I will finish it."
Give me that.
She looked at him for a moment, something passing behind her eyes, and then she nodded and walked to her room. That night, alone in the small room at the back of the compound, Grace sat on the edge of her bed. She pressed her fingers gently against her cheek, where the red had faded, but the heat remained. She stared at the wall. The generator hummed outside. Lagos was doing what it always does at night, loud and alive and indifferent. For just a small, private moment, her eyes filled. Not from the slap, pain she had felt before and worse. It was something else. It was the overwhelming and unexpected strangeness of having someone see what was done to her and say it was wrong. She had been in many situations in her professional life where she had absorbed worse than a slap, and no one had said anything because it was part of the work. She had built walls around the part of herself that expected comfort, and then Samuel had walked around the wall without even knowing it was there. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She opened her small Bible to a page she had turned to many times. She read until the tightness in her chest eased. Then she lay down and stared at the ceiling, and she told herself, in the voice she used for the most important conversations she had with herself, that she had a job to do, that the mission was the only thing, that feelings were not permitted. But Joy Adiza Nwosu, who was pretending to be Grace, had been pretending to be various people for 8 years, and she had never, not once, in 8 years of undercover work, had someone finish mopping the floor for her. She was in serious trouble. The days that followed were a slow-moving storm. Daniel confronted Samuel about the hallway incident, and Samuel did not back down the way he usually did. The brothers argued in low, controlled voices that were somehow more frightening than shouting. Sandra spent her days moving through the house with the energy of someone who has decided to be difficult until the universe apologizes. Grace continued doing her job with quiet precision, appearing to be untouched by the drama, while inside she cataloged everything, because Grace was looking for something. In the weeks she had been in the house, she had gathered pieces of information the way a careful person gathers evidence. She had heard phone calls. She had seen account numbers on a printout left carelessly on the kitchen table, which Daniel had swept away quickly when he realized she had come in, not quick enough. She had heard a name mentioned twice in late-night conversations that Daniel conducted in the garden when he thought the house was asleep. She had learned the hours of his movements, when he worked from home, when he left for Victoria Island, when he sat in his private office for hours with the door locked. She had assembled a picture, and the picture was confirming everything she had been told before she arrived. Daniel was T. Billions. T. Billions was the name that financial crime investigators across Nigeria had been chasing for nearly 3 years. A ghost, a network, a person who had built an architecture of shell companies across West Africa, Europe, and the Americas, through which enormous sums of money were moved and laundered with such sophistication that the tracing teams at the unit had repeatedly hit dead ends. The money came from multiple sources: internet fraud on an industrial scale, compromised payroll systems that drained pension funds, fake investment platforms that had consumed the savings of ordinary Nigerians in numbers too heartbreaking to print. Joy had been the unit's best option for getting close. The pattern of his private life, the way he employed domestic staff, the known address in Lekki, the profile that said he was deeply private in his personal environment, but relatively unguarded when he believed he had control of it. All of this had pointed to a domestic placement as the most viable approach. She had been briefed on Daniel. She had been briefed on Samuel, too. She had been told Samuel was clean, no known involvement, probably unaware of the full extent of his brother's activities. She had been told to be careful with Samuel, to maintain professional distance. She was failing at that. One evening, Samuel came into the kitchen with a book he had bought from a bookshop in Yaba. It was a book about West African history that he had picked up because the cover interested him. He sat at the kitchen table while she made dinner, and he read out loud occasionally when he found something interesting, not because he expected her to be interested, but because he was the kind of person who shared things automatically without calculating whether it was appropriate or welcome. She found herself listening, actually listening, not monitoring, not cataloging, just listening. She found herself asking questions. They had a conversation about the Benin Kingdom that lasted 40 minutes and resulted in the stew almost burning, which they both found funny in the awkward way of two people who are pretending not to find each other funny. "You know a great deal for someone who says she did not have much schooling," Samuel said, looking at her across the kitchen table with his book still open. Grace paused. She had been careless. "I read a lot," she said. "I have always read. Even when I had nothing, I read whatever I could find." He looked at her for a moment. He nodded slowly, as though this answered something he had been thinking about for a while. "That is more valuable than a certificate," he said. She turned back to the stew and did not respond, but she held on to what he had said like you hold on to warmth. Sandra left for Abuja again for a week, and the house breathed. Grace noticed it in everything. The air in the corridors felt lighter. The mornings were calmer. Even Daniel seemed to lose several degrees of his coldness when Sandra was not there, like a man putting down something heavy he had been required to carry. He began, not being kind exactly, because Daniel was not a man who did kindness easily or naturally, but being slightly less cold. He stopped criticizing unnecessarily. He began saying thank you at breakfast, not warmly, not with any emotion, but with the consistency of a man who has decided it is the right behavior, even if the feeling behind it has not yet caught up. Once, passing the kitchen late at night, he stopped in the doorway because he could hear Grace humming while she rolled dough for meat pies. She was not aware of him. She moved through the work with her shoulders relaxed, humming something low and rhythmic, entirely in her own world. He stood there for perhaps 30 seconds, long enough to feel something he could not name, and then he walked away quietly before she turned around. He told himself it was nothing. He was not entirely sure he believed himself. Sandra returned from Abuja with a specific purpose. Joy had not expected Sandra to be the complication. She had been managing Daniel carefully and tracking his patterns. She was getting close to understanding where the physical evidence was kept. She had narrowed it down to the private office, which she had never been allowed to enter. She needed one opportunity, one unguarded moment, to search it. Sandra's new strategy derailed everything for 10 days. Sandra had decided to pursue Samuel. Joy did not understand it fully at first. She thought it was simply Sandra's personality, always needing to be the object of every person's attention. But she watched more carefully, and she understood. Sandra knew that Daniel was losing interest in her. She could feel it the way women like Sandra feel these things, through the changes in temperature and attention, through the quality of his silences, through the fact that he had stopped defending her after the hallway incident. And Sandra was strategic in the way that people who have always relied on their attractiveness must be. If Daniel did not value her, she would make Daniel fear losing her. She began being warm to Samuel, sitting near him in the evenings, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm when she spoke to him. Samuel was visibly uncomfortable. He was decent in the specific way of a man who cannot be rude to someone his brother cares about, but is deeply uninterested in her attention. Joy observed all of this with the professional part of her mind making notes, and the personal part of her mind doing something quite different. It was the evening that Joy came from the kitchen with the dinner tray and saw Sandra with her hand on Samuel's knee, leaning toward him, saying something in a voice low enough to exclude anyone else. The Joy felt something she had not felt in a professional context before and had not expected to feel now.
And then what happened?
She set the tray on the counter. She stood in the kitchen for a moment. She heard Samuel saying something in a polite, stiff voice that was doing its best to be distant without being rude. She went back to her room. She sat on the bed. She breathed. She categorized the emotion carefully and filed it under things that were irrelevant to the mission and therefore had to be managed. But it was there. She was jealous. Agent 412, with 8 years of undercover experience, in the middle of a federal financial crimes investigation, was jealous of a calculating woman's proximity to a man she had no right to want. It was the funniest, terrible thing that had happened to her in years. She sat on her bed that night, and she had a very serious conversation with herself. She reviewed her entire career, 8 years. 3 major undercover deployments before this one. A drug trafficking case in Kano, where she had spent 4 months pretending to be an administrative assistant for a man whose network spanned 4 states. A money smuggling case in Port Harcourt, where she had lived in a compound for 6 weeks, surrounded by people who would have hurt her without hesitation if they had known what she was. A document fraud ring in Abuja, where she had played a willing participant for 3 months before the net closed. In all 3 of those deployments, she had stayed clean, professional, focused. She had come home from each of them with her reports complete, her evidence intact, her personal boundaries undisturbed. Her supervisor called her the most disciplined operative in the unit and said it with genuine admiration, the kind of admiration you give someone who has mastered something difficult. And here she was, in a house in Lekki, jealous. Over a man who bought her hand cream without being asked, and read history books out loud and said things like, "You deserve that, everyone does," as though it were obvious. She pressed the heels of her hands against her eyes. She thought about her training. She thought about the briefing she had received before this deployment, which had included a specific paragraph about the risk of emotional engagement in long-term domestic placements. She had read that paragraph and thought, with the quiet confidence of someone who has not yet been tested on a particular thing, that it would not apply to her. She had never had that problem before. She was a professional. The training materials were right. She had been wrong. She made a note of this for her post-operation report, under lessons learned, that the risk of emotional engagement in long-term domestic placements was not theoretical. She would give this note to younger agents who needed it. But right now, in this specific moment, on this specific night in Lagos, she had a mission to complete, and she would complete it. Whatever it cost her personally, she would complete it. She lay down. She closed her eyes. She thought about the retired civil servant in Ibadan. She thought about the small business owner in Aba. She stayed with those thoughts until everything else was quiet. She slept. The Sandra situation resolved itself in a way that Joy had not orchestrated and had not expected. Daniel came home early one afternoon and found Sandra sitting very close to Samuel on the sofa, her head practically on his shoulder, while Samuel sat with the rigid posture of someone who wants to be somewhere else. Daniel stood in the doorway long enough to understand the situation completely. He did not shout. He did not throw things. He looked at the scene with the cold precision of a man who has added up a set of numbers and arrived at an answer he does not like. "Sandra," he said, "a word." Samuel stood up immediately. "Daniel, I want to be clear right now. Nothing happened and nothing was going to happen." Daniel looked at his brother. For once, there was no coldness in the look. There was something more complicated than that. There was tiredness. "I know," he said simply. He talked to Sandra behind closed doors for 12 minutes. Joy, who was in the hallway outside the kitchen with perfect stillness, heard enough to understand that it was over. Sandra packed that evening. She left with noise and the kind of dramatic pronouncements that people make when they want the world to confirm their narrative. The gate closed behind her SUV. The house went quiet. Later that night, very late, Joy heard movement in the sitting room. She went to the kitchen for water and looked through the doorway. Daniel was sitting alone in the dark, only the orange glow of his phone screen. He was not using the phone. He was just holding it, sitting with it, in the dark and the silence of his own house. She thought about what Samuel had said, about providing and not raising, about a man who had carried everything since he was 20 years old and had never had anyone sit with him and ask how he felt about it. She went back to her room. She lay in the dark. She thought about what she was doing, about what she was here for, about the 6 billion naira and the 47 shell companies and the victims in Ibadan and Aba and Kaduna. She thought about Daniel sitting in the dark with his phone. Both things were true at once. That was the hardest part of the work she did. Both things were always true at once. The day she found what she was looking for began with a noise. The air conditioning unit in Daniel's private office had been making a high-pitched rattling sound for 2 days. Daniel was the kind of man who could tolerate physical discomfort that was not immediately catastrophic. He had been ignoring it. But on a Wednesday afternoon, when the Lagos heat had climbed to something unforgiving, when even the walls of the house seemed to be radiating warmth back at you, the AC finally seized and stopped entirely. Daniel called a technician. The technician came,
Yes.
was let in by
This way.
Joy, and went to work. Daniel had a meeting in Victoria Island. Before he left, he called Joy to the foot of the stairs.
Stay with him.
"The technician is upstairs in my office,"
Yes,
he
sir.
said. He looked at her directly.
Careful.
"You will stay within sight of him while he works. Do you understand? You will
Stay
not
within
leave him
sight.
unsupervised in that room."
Yes, sir.
"Yes, sir," she
Be
said.
careful.
Something in his eyes when he said it told her that he was not giving this instruction only because of the
This one
technician.
hasn't been opened in a while.
He left. Joy supervised the
that.
technician with complete professional calmness. The man was efficient, focused, cheerful in the way of skilled people who are confident in their work.
I can see
He took
that.
the exterior panel off the AC unit to access the internal components. He explained to Joy what had gone
This one hasn't
wrong,
been opened in a while.
something about the filter and the
I
compressor
can see
seal.
that.
Joy was listening to him, and she was also watching the inside of the AC unit. Taped carefully to the interior back panel, behind the filter housing, in a position that would be visible only if the entire front panel was removed, was a sealed waterproof folder. Clear plastic, the kind used for important documents. Thick with contents. The technician did not see it. He had not needed to remove the filter housing. He was working on the compressor section. Joy looked at the folder, and she felt something move through her that was the professional equivalent of arriving at a destination after a very long journey.
There you are.
She was careful. She controlled her face. She controlled her breathing. She asked the technician 1 or 2 more questions about the work
There you
to keep the interaction normal. He answered. He finished the compressor repair, replaced the panel, tested the unit, confirmed it was
There
working.
you are.
He thanked her for the supervision. She thanked him. She saw him to the gate.
Everything
The house
should
was
be fine
empty.
now.
Daniel was in Victoria Island. Samuel had gone to Yaba earlier in the afternoon. Joy stood in the hallway for 1 full minute, breathing slowly, reviewing procedures in her mind. Then she went back upstairs. She opened the panel again. She took out the folder. She opened it. 12 pages. Printed on standard office paper, slightly worn at the edges, ordered with the meticulous attention of a man who had built a system and trusted it. Account numbers, wire transfer records, dates and amounts. Names of companies in 6 countries, many of them with names that could belong to legitimate businesses and did not. Routing codes, the kind of specific, traceable financial architecture that only exists in physical form when someone needs to remember a system too complex to keep entirely in their head. She knew immediately what she was holding. She knew the significance of every line on those 12 pages. She thought briefly, precisely, of the retired civil servant in Ibadan, whose pension had been drained, the small business owner in Aba, whose accounts had been emptied, the widow in Kaduna, who had lost her husband's entire life insurance payout to a fake investment platform. Hundreds more names that she had read in the briefing files.
There you are.
Real people, real losses, real lives damaged. She photographed every page, carefully, systematically, with the precision of 8 years of training. She checked the images to confirm they were clear and complete. She replaced the folder in the exact position it had been in. She replaced the panel. She stood for a moment in the silence of Daniel's private office, in the room that smelled of him and of the particular quality of secrets kept for a long time. Then she went downstairs. She went to the kitchen. She began preparing dinner. Her hands were completely steady. She sent the photographs that evening through the secure channel in a message that looked like an ordinary text. The confirmation came back 40 minutes later. A single word. Received. She knew what came next. The operation moved in 2 days. On a Thursday evening at 6:30, while the light was still holding over Lecky and the generator in the compound had just come on, and Joy was in the kitchen making a goosey soup, she heard the sound of vehicles outside. More than one. Moving slowly. She kept stirring. Samuel was in the sitting room watching something on the television. Daniel had come home 20 minutes ago and was at the foot of the stairs, his jacket over his arm, loosening his tie, doing the small physical rituals of a man transitioning from the version of himself he presents to the world and the version he is alone. She heard the gate. She heard voices. Detective Michael Okafor walked in first, a man of 40, steady and unhurried, with the bearing of someone who has done difficult things many times and has stopped needing to perform the difficulty. 6 officers behind him. Daniel Emeka Okonkwo, Detective Okafor said. His voice was level and completely without drama. You are also known by the name T. Billions. We hold a warrant issued by the federal court for your arrest. The charges are financial fraud, wire fraud, organized money laundering, and cyber crimes causing economic harm to citizens across 6 states of this federation. You have the right to remain silent. The sitting room went absolutely still. Daniel was at the foot of the stairs. He looked at Detective Okafor. He looked at the officers. His hand with the jacket in it lowered slowly to his side. Something remarkable happened in his face. All the controlled coldness, the precision, the performance of being Daniel Okonkwo simply fell away, like a mask dropping. What was underneath was much simpler and much sadder. It was just a man who had been running for a very long time and had always known, somewhere beneath the performance, that it would end. That things like this always end. That is not my name, he said, but his voice had nothing behind it. Sir, Detective Okafor said gently, as though he had done this enough times to know that gentleness at this moment was more efficient than force. Please do not make this harder. Samuel was on his feet. He had come from the sitting room, and he was standing in the doorway, looking at his brother with the face of a man watching the floor disappear. Daniel, he said, what is this? What is happening? What are they talking about? Daniel looked at his brother. He could not speak. And then Joy walked out of the kitchen. She did not walk quickly. She did not rush it. She walked with the even, unhurried movement of someone who has been carrying a weight for a long time and is finally setting it down. She came into the sitting room, and she stood in the center of it. And she was not Grace anymore. Her posture was different. Her voice, when she spoke, was different. Not performed, not calculated. Just her own voice, direct and clear. My name is not Grace, she said. I am Officer Joy Adeyezin Nwosu, agent number 412. I was deployed to this household under the authorization of the Financial Crimes Enforcement Unit as part of a federal undercover operation into the activities of Daniel Emeka Okonkwo, known to the investigation as T. Billions. The silence in the room was unlike any silence that had existed in that house before. She turned briefly to Detective Okafor. The primary physical evidence was located in an air conditioning unit in the home office, behind the filter panel. I photographed the documents 2 days ago and transmitted them through the secure channel. The originals are in place. We will secure the office, Detective Okafor confirmed. He directed his officers with a gesture. They moved through the house with quiet efficiency. Daniel was moved toward the door. He was handcuffed with a kind of care that acknowledged his cooperation so far. He stopped near Joy. He looked at her. His expression was one that she had not expected and would think about many times afterward. It was not anger. It was not betrayal. It was recognition, the specific recognition of someone who has suspected a truth for a long time without wanting to confirm it. "The way you moved through this house," he said quietly. "I always felt there was something I could not place, something that was not quite what it appeared." "You are a perceptive man," she said. "Not perceptive enough," he said. He paused. "You endured a great deal in this house," he said. "The things Sandra did, the things I said to you. It was part of the work," she said. "You are still a person," he said. "Those things should not have been done to a person." She looked at him. "No," she said. "They should not." They took him to the vehicles. Detective Okafor spoke briefly with Joy about next steps, testimony schedules, evidence processing. 2 officers stayed to secure the office and collect the original documents. And then it was only Joy and Samuel left in the sitting room. Samuel had not moved from the doorway. He was looking at her with an expression that she would have given a great deal not to have to receive. It was not anger. It was the face of someone trying to find their footing after the ground has shifted underneath them. "Everything?" he said finally. The word was careful and soft and full. Joy looked at him. She had known this moment was coming for months. She had prepared for it intellectually. She had told herself exactly what she would say, professionally, calmly, that the work was confidential and could not be discussed, that she was sorry for any confusion, that she wished him well. She had the words ready. She did not use them. "Not everything," she said. He waited. "When you sat at the kitchen table and read to me from your history book," she said slowly, "that was real conversation. When I laughed, the laughter was mine. When I told you about my parents, I told you the true things. The specific details were adjusted for the cover, but the feeling behind them was true. I know what it is to lose people. I know what it is to be alone." She paused. "When you defended me in the hallway, when you finished mopping the floor, when you left the hand cream on my bed, I did not thank you because I was afraid of what my voice would do if I tried." Samuel looked at her. His hands at his sides were still. "When you asked me not to say something one evening," he said slowly, "in the kitchen, I knew what you were going to say," she said, "and I knew if you said it, I would not be able to keep pretending that it was not also true from my side. And I still had work to do." He was quiet for a long moment. "Your real name," he said finally. "Joy," she said. He said it back to her, just once, quietly. "Joy." It sounded different in his voice. It sounded like something he intended to keep. "I have to go now," she said. "There is processing, reports, statements." "I know," he said. She picked up her small bag. She walked to the door. "Joy," he said. She turned. "I am not angry with you," he said. "I need you to know that. I do not understand everything yet, and I need time to find the right way to hold all of this. But I am not angry." Her eyes were bright, and she did not try to hide it. "Thank you," she said softly. She walked out of the house on Chevron Drive. Behind her, the compound was lit by outdoor lights, the bougainvillea on the wall still purple and wild and growing without anyone's permission. The Lagos night was warm and busy, and loud in the way it always is, indifferent to the specific stories of specific people, but somehow containing all of them. She walked to the waiting vehicle, and the chapter closed behind her. In the weeks that followed, the case against Daniel moved through the federal justice system with the momentum that happens when evidence is comprehensive and the investigators have been thorough. The 12-page document from the AC unit, combined with months of observation logs and the testimonies of financial experts who could trace the architecture of the shell companies, built a case that was formidable and complete. Wire transfers were confirmed. Accounts were identified. Victims were verified and catalogued. The faces of ordinary Nigerians who had lost real money began to appear in news coverage. The retired civil servant, the small business owner, the widow, hundreds of others, and their faces put weight and specificity on what might otherwise have seemed like an abstract financial crime. Daniel cooperated. He took the deal that was offered. He identified the international collaborators. He provided the technical details that allowed tracing teams to pursue funds that had not yet been recovered. His cooperation was genuine and complete. The cooperation of a man who had looked clearly at what he had built and decided, finally, that he did not want to defend it. Joy's testimony, when it was required, was precise and professional. She described the placement, the timeline, the evidence gathering. She described the document discovery with the clinical accuracy of someone trained to observe and report. She was composed. She was credible. She was also, during those weeks, thinking about Samuel every day. She thought about him when she was writing her reports. She thought about him when she walked past the kind of bookshop he might have bought his history book from. She thought about him in the evenings when she was cooking for herself in her apartment in Surulere, a small second-floor flat with a window that faced a courtyard where children played until dark. She thought about him with the specific helplessness of someone who has told themselves something is not permitted and has failed entirely to convince their own heart. Samuel, for his part, stayed in the Leckie house. He went through the difficult process of understanding who his brother truly was, not just the controlling, cold, sometimes cruel man he had always known, but a man whose pursuit of money and power had taken him somewhere irreversible many years ago. He grieved, not loudly, not dramatically, in the quiet, interior way of people who have learned that grief requires no audience. He sat in the sitting room on that first night alone, and he looked at the space where Daniel had been standing when the officers came, and he tried to reconcile the person he had lived with his whole adult life with the person those documents described. It was not impossible to do. That was the strange and difficult part. It was not impossible at all, because he had always known that the money was not entirely clean. He had not asked. He had benefited and not asked, and he was going to have to sit with that too. He called a lawyer he knew from university. He went through the process of understanding what his own position was, what assets were legitimately his, and what might be subject to seizure, what cooperation looked like, and what his obligations were. He cooperated fully and completely with everything that was asked of him. There was nothing they found in his accounts or his activities that gave them concern. He was clean. But being clean does not mean being comfortable with what you find when you look clearly at the life you have been living. He sat with Daniel's ghost in that house for weeks. He sat with the version of Daniel who had raised him, who had made sure he ate and went to school and had shoes, who had never once asked for gratitude, but had carried the weight of their parents' absence without complaint. He sat with the version of Daniel who had slapped the television remote out of a housekeeper's hand because it was in the wrong place. He sat with the version of Daniel who had sat alone in the dark after Sandra left, holding his phone, not using it. He sat with all the versions, and he did not try to choose which one was real. They were all real. That was what made it hard. Good people do not always do good things. Complicated people are not simplified by their worst actions. He hired new domestic staff through a proper agency, an older woman named Mrs. Balogan, who was efficient and kind and entirely unambiguous about who she was and why she was there. He started cooking for himself on weekends. He was not very good, but he kept trying. He thought that Joy would have found this funny, and the thought made him smile and then feel something complicated. He thought about her every day. She called on a Tuesday evening, 3 months after the arrest. He had just come in from the market in Aja with fresh tomatoes and fish and the modest domestic ambition of a man attempting to make his first successful pot of stew. He did not recognize the number. He almost let it ring out. "Samuel," she said. He sat down on the kitchen stool, the one he had cleaned and kept, because it had been Grace's stool, and it had become, in his private internal accounting, Joy's stool now. "Joy," he said. The pause between them was full and quiet, and not uncomfortable. "I have been thinking," she said. "I have also been thinking," he said. "I know what I did to your family's life," she said. "I know that what happened to Daniel was the right outcome, that those people deserved justice, that what he did was genuinely harmful and needed to be stopped. I know all of that, but I also know that you are the one sitting in that house now, and that things are different for you because of my work. I want you to know that I am aware of that weight, and I am not asking you to simply set it aside." He was quiet for a moment. "What are you asking me, Joy?" he said gently. "I am asking whether you want to have lunch," she said. "Nothing more than that yet. Just lunch. As two people who know each other honestly now." He looked at the tomatoes on the counter. He looked at the kitchen that Grace had cleaned and Joy had worked in and that he was now trying to learn in himself. "Saturday?" he said. "Saturday," she said. They met at a small restaurant in Ikoyi, nothing expensive or formal. The kind of place with ceiling fans and good food and wooden chairs and tables where the salt and pepper shakers do not match and no one cares. Joy arrived first. She was wearing a yellow dress and her hair was loose for the first time he had ever seen it, falling in soft spirals around her face. She looked completely herself. Not Grace and not Agent 412. Just Joy. Samuel arrived and stopped when he saw her. He looked at her for a moment before he sat down, the way you look at something that has taken you by surprise with its reality. "You look different," he said, sitting across from her. "I am different," she said. "This is actually me." "I like it," he said simply. They ordered food. They talked for 3 hours. Not about the case, not about Daniel, not about the house on Chevron Drive. They talked about Lagos and the specific way it exhausts and energizes you simultaneously. They talked about books, and it turned out Joy had opinions about the history book Samuel had been reading that led to a 20-minute conversation that included a disagreement neither of them wanted to win too strongly. They talked about their parents, and this time all the details were real. Every detail. Nothing adjusted for cover. Just true things offered to another person from an open hand. "When I was in training," Joy said at one point, when they had been talking for nearly 2 hours and the restaurant had begun to fill with the evening crowd, "they teach you that the most dangerous thing in undercover work is forgetting which version of yourself is real. They mean it as a warning about losing your identity in a role. But what they do not always account for is the opposite problem." "What is the opposite problem?" Samuel asked. "When you are being someone else," she said slowly, "you sometimes find out true things about yourself that you would not have found out otherwise, because the constructed person does not have the usual defenses. Grace did not have the defenses that Joy has built over 8 years of this work. Grace could just be in the kitchen and be warm and be affected by things. And what Grace discovered in that kitchen was that Joy had been a little lonely for a very long time and had told herself it was fine." Samuel was quiet. "Is it still fine?" he asked. She looked at him across the table. "Less so," she said, "since you are asking." He smiled. Not the polite smile he used in professional settings. The real one. The one she had first seen when he told her something he found funny in the kitchen and forgot for a moment that she was staff. "I have a confession," he said. What? The hand cream I left on your bed. I saw you looking at it through the pharmacy window for about 30 seconds. I went back to buy it after I dropped you at the house, and then I felt extremely silly standing at the pharmacy counter buying hand cream for my housemaid, and I almost talked myself out of it 3 times on the way home. Joy laughed. Genuinely, fully, the way she had not expected to laugh on a day that had already moved her so much. You almost talked yourself out of it 3 times? 3 times, he confirmed. And then I thought, she works in a house all day, and her hands must be dry. And that is a practical thought, a normal thing to notice. So I bought it. It was a kind thing, she said. It was a cowardly thing, dressed up as a practical thing, he said. But the feeling behind it was real. Yes, she said. It was. My mother used to cook every Sunday, regardless of how tired she was, Joy said. She said Sunday food made everything make sense again. If the week had been too much, you sat at the table on Sunday and you ate what she made, and you were okay for another week. My mother sang while she cooked, Samuel said. Off-key, always the same 3 songs. She would loop them and not notice. We used to tease her about it terribly. I would give anything to hear it again. They looked at each other across the small table. I think about her when I cook now, he said, especially when I'm doing it badly, and I imagine what she would say. What would she say? He laughed. She would say, Samuel, you have 2 hands and a good brain. Why is this stew behaving like this? Joy laughed, the real laugh, the kitchen laugh, the one he had been carrying around with him for 3 months. Outside the Ikoyi restaurant, as the sun moved toward the horizon and turned the Lagos sky into something orange and brilliant and almost unreal, they stood near their cars in the small parking lot. Joy, Samuel said. Yes? I have been honest with myself about this for a while now, he said. What I felt in that house, what I feel now, it is the same thing. It did not change when I learned your name. It did not change when I understood the situation. You were real to me from the beginning, and you are real to me now. Joy looked at him. Her eyes were steady and clear. I did not expect you, she said quietly. You were not in the plan. I know, he said. You should know, she said, that undercover work does something to a person over time. It makes you very good at pretending, and sometimes not very good at just being. I am still learning to just be. I am not a perfect person, and I am not a simple person. I am not asking for perfect or simple, he said. I am asking for real. She was quiet. He reached out and took her hand, briefly and gently, the way you hold something you have looked for a long time and are relieved to find in your hands at last. We start from here, he said. Honestly, with our actual names. No performance required. Joy looked at him for a long moment. The Lagos evening moved around them, warm and noisy and alive, full of the beautiful chaos of a city that never stops asking everything of the people who live inside it. Okay, she said. We start from here. And that was enough. For now, for this first honest step, it was completely enough. Daniel Okonkwo was sentenced in a federal court. The cooperation deal reduced his prison term significantly and allowed for structured repayment programs that would return funds to verified victims. He would be inside for years, but he would come out. He had asked through his lawyer that Samuel be told he was sorry. Samuel received the message and sat with it for a long time before he decided what to do with it. He decided to keep it, not to release the anger, because the anger was legitimate, and he was not required to release it on anyone's schedule, but to keep the message somewhere, because one day, when he was ready, he might want to respond to it. Not for Daniel's sake, for his own. Joy was promoted within the unit. She was given a new assignment in a different city, but asked to delay starting until after her testimony obligations were complete. She used the time in Lagos. She cooked on Sundays. She visited her sister in Port Harcourt once, a visit that was long overdue and awkward in the way that long overdue things often are, but ended better than it began. She called her supervisor one evening and told him, professionally and clearly, that she had a personal relationship developing with a civilian connected to a case she had worked. The supervisor listened. He asked the relevant questions. He reviewed the documentation. He signed off. She called Samuel after. "It is approved," she said. "Officially. No conflicts." He was quiet for a second, and then laughed a little. "You filed paperwork for this?" "I do things properly," she said. "I always have." "I know," he said. "I am not complaining." On a Saturday a few weeks later, Samuel attempted to make jollof rice again. He was in his kitchen on Chevron Drive, phone propped on the counter, following a recipe this time from a proper recipe book that he had marked with a small sticky note. He was concentrating. He got the tomatoes right. He got the water proportion right. The rice came out intact and properly done. Not perfect, but genuinely edible. He tasted it and nodded. He took a picture of the pot and sent it to Joy. She replied 3 minutes later, "That actually looks good." He replied, "Joy, I know." She sent back a laughing emoji. He stood alone in his kitchen in Lekki, in a house that had been cold and empty and full of secrets, and was gradually becoming something warmer and more honest. And he smiled. He thought about what it meant to have a house. Not a building, not marble floors and expensive sofas and a gate with a security booth, but a house in the real sense. A place where people know your name and mean it, where the food on the table was made with attention and not obligation, where silence between people is comfortable rather than weaponized. He thought about his mother and the off-key songs. He thought about Grace's steady hands at the stove. He thought about Joy's real voice and real name and real history. All the things she had finally been allowed to give him. He thought that perhaps a home is not a thing you are born into or buy. It is a thing you build, slowly, imperfectly, with whoever shows up honestly. Somewhere in the city, Officer Joy Adeze Nwosu, Agent 412, was smiling too. She was in her small flat in Surulere, with the window open and the sound of children in the courtyard below, and the particular golden light of a Lagos Saturday evening coming through the curtain. She was cooking. Nothing complicated. Just something simple and warm. The kind of food that makes a place feel like it belongs to you. And in Lagos, which contains every kind of story imaginable, from the smallest private ones to the largest public ones, from the shameful to the triumphant, to the complex human ones that are both at once, one more story was finding its way forward. Not cleanly, not without scars, not without the specific difficulties that come when two people have met in extraordinary circumstances and are now attempting the ordinary work of knowing each other, but forward, honestly, with their actual names. That is all any of us can really ask in this life. And that, dear friends, is where we will leave Samuel and Joy today. What a journey this has been. From a lonely mansion on Chevron Drive to a courtroom, from a disguise and a mop and a plate of noodles, to the slow, honest beginning of something real.
Cook like you've done this forever.
This story reminds us that justice sometimes comes dressed in unexpected ways. It reminds us that kindness leaves marks, even when the people showing it do not know how deeply it is being felt. And it reminds us that love, real love, is not something you plan. It finds you in the middle of your ordinary life, in the middle of your kitchen, in the middle of your work, and it asks you the only question that truly matters.
You shouldn't.
Are you willing to be real with me? Thank you for watching this story with us today. If this story moved your heart, if it made you feel something, please take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel, D Folktale. Leave a comment and tell us which part of this story touched you the most. Was it Joy's courage in staying undercover through everything she endured? Was it Samuel's quiet, consistent kindness? Was it the moment in the hallway when he finished mopping the floor for her? Share this video with someone who needs a good story today. And we will be back very soon with another story that will stay with you long after it ends. Until then, God bless you and keep you.